Hi, I'm gonna show you how to crochet this reversible headband. It has like a 3D ribbed pattern. So there's a prominent color on one side and a prominent color on the other side. There's an optional step to add an elastic to the top and the bottom of the headband so that it keeps its shape a little better. This headband will be created as a rectangular strip of fabric and then attached together to create a round piece. I'm gonna start with the green yarn. So I'm taking the tail, I'm going to use that to make a slip knot. So I'll wrap it twice around my finger, slide the inner loop over the outer loop, and then slide the outer loop over and off my finger. And then I'll take my 5mm hook, slide that under the loop, and then pull the whole thing off my finger. And then I'll pull to tighten. And then I'm going to chain 14. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then I will single crochet down the row of chains. So I'm going to start with a single crochet in the second chain from the hook. So I'm going to insert my hook into the top loop of it, and then yarn over, pull up a loop, and then yarn over, pull through. And I will keep doing that down the row. So I'm inserting my hook into the next chain, and I'll single crochet. That's 2. So going to the next one. There will end up being a total of 13 single crochets. Okay, so I have 1 single crochet left. I'm going to go into the last chain, pull up a loop, and then stop right there when there's 2 loops left on the hook. And then I'm going to switch colors. So I'm going to take the tail of the white yarn, put that on my hook, and pull through. So make sure that there's enough of a tail with the white so that you can weave it in later. And then use the white to chain 1, and then I'll turn. Okay, so this is where the pattern starts to get a little more complicated. So the second row will be done in white, and it's important that I pull up the green yarn. So there's going to be a lot of yarn going down. There's going to be a lot of different strands of yarn down here. I'm going to take the 2 tails and pull those out of the way. We're not going to grab those. We're going to grab the green, leaving the tails out of the way, and pull it up behind so that you can crochet over it. So I'm going to be doing a row of single crochet back loop only down the row using the white yarn while crocheting over the green yarn. So using the white yarn, I'm going to go into the back loop of the first stitch, which is easy to point out because it's the first green one. So you see how there's 2 loops here? I'm only going to go into the one in the back. Make sure that I'm going under the green strand so that I can crochet over it, and then I'm going to yarn over using the white and pull through, and then yarn over, pull through. So you see how I just crocheted over the green yarn? And then I'm just going to repeat that down the row. So I'll go into the back loop of the next stitch and do the same thing. And then I'll go into the next one. A few stitches in, so I'm 3 stitches in, I'm going to stop and pull on the green yarn a little bit to make sure that it's tightened at the front of the stitch. And so you can see it's a little loose there. That's because of the tail. So I'll pull on the tail a little bit to tighten those, and then pull the green yarn until that's tight. There we go. And then I'll keep going with the single crochet back loop only. And then when I get to the last stitch, I'm going to have to switch colors again. So I'm going to go into the last stitch, pull up a loop, stop when there's 2 loops remaining there. So there's one more important step before we start the next row. You can see that the green yarn is sticking out through the stitches. So I'm just going to take it and pull it tight to fix that. So I've over tightened it, and then I'm going to pull this loose to fix that. And then there's no gaps in the green yarn and it's not bunching up in the stitches. Okay, so I'm gonna use the green yarn to finish this stitch. So I'm yarn over, pull through, and then chain 1 and turn. And now I'm gonna do the exact same thing that I just did with the second row again. So I'm gonna make sure the white yarn is pulled up behind so I can crochet over it. And then I'll go into the back loop of the first stitch. And pull up a loop. And then yarn over, pull through. And I'll just keep repeating that down the row. Once again, a few rows in, stop and pull the white yarn tight just to make sure that the beginning, like the row stitch, doesn't have any loose yarn, like that. When I get to the last stitch, I'm going to stop when there's 2 loops remaining, and then once again pull the white, which is the unused yarn, tight to remove any gaps and stop it from bunching up in between the stitches, and then pull it apart again to even it out. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So you're just going to repeat rows 2 and 3 until the headband is long enough to wrap around your head. So for me, that's about 82 rows. So I've made my headband as long as I want it to be, but this sizing is not permanent. So it'd be really easy if once you've closed this, if it doesn't fit properly, it'd be very easy to just frog it, and then you can either frog it to make it smaller or add more rows to make it looser. So don't worry about it too much. It's important that I started with green, so I need to finish with green. Just to try to maintain the stripe pattern so that this looks like a seamless headband when I close it, because I'm going to switch to white now, and then I'll use the white to slip stitch across and close this. So I'm going to switch to white now, and use the white. I'm going to slip stitch across to close using the white. That will maintain the stripe pattern to keep it looking as seamless as possible. Okay, so I'm going to do the slip stitch on the side where the white is most prominent. So basically what I'm going to do is go into the back loop only, or go into the back loop of this row and one of the stitches of the start to close. So I'll show you what that looks like. I'm going to chain 1, and then I'll go into the back loop, which is this one, the one on the outside, and then I'll go into the first stitch of the start of the headband, and then I'm going to yarn over and pull through all of it to slip stitch. And then I'll just keep repeating that down the row. So I'm going to go into, this is hard to see. I'm going to go into back loop, this side, and then stitch on the other side. Yarn over, pull through. Okay, so now, if you're making this for yourself, try it on for size. If you like the way it fits, then keep it like this, fasten off, weave in the ends. If you don't, either extend it or frog it and make it shorter. So I like to keep this, I wanted to keep it a little looser to keep the like 3D type stripes more visible. I think it looks cooler. And then I'm gonna add in some elastic to keep it tight enough to my head. But that is optional. The elastic also helps to hold the shape of the headband. So over time, when the stitches relax, it'll still stay as tight as you'd like it to be. I'm gonna cut both of these. And then pull this through and tighten it. Okay, so I cut a bunch of this type of elastic, a little bit more than will wrap around my head, just so I have some tails to weave in. So I put the elastic on a yarn needle and I'm gonna start weaving it through the edge of the headband. So I'm gonna go into the side here where I closed the headband, pull this through, and then I'm literally just gonna start weaving through the edge of the headband, doing the best I can to hide this elastic. So this step will be different for everyone, because I think depending on the tension and the way you made the stitches at the side, different stitches will be available, will be most prominent, and for you to weave the elastic into, different stitches will be the easiest to hide it. So I can't exactly, this isn't exactly a science, but you're just going to want to hide it as best you can. Use the most prominent stitches in the side here. If you find out that the elastic is really visible in the way you did it, you might want to undo it and restart. But see, I'm just going into the most prominent stitches along the side. See, so that's pretty well hidden. You're just gonna have to test this out. I find it helpful in this stage if you pull the elastic tight enough that it stays hidden. So see how it's fully visible right there? I'm just gonna pull on it a little and now it'll be hidden a little better. I find it difficult to even out the elastic once it's been woven through the entire headband later. And then once you're done weaving in the elastic, again, try the headband on, make sure it fits the way you want it to fit, and then tie a little knot and then weave in both ends to hide it. So you can see my little knot right there, and then I weaved in the ends through to hide them. And then when you're done putting the elastic, do the elastic on one side, do the same thing on the other side. And then I'm gonna do the same thing with the rest of these loose ends. So I'm gonna take my yarn needle, thread them through there, and then I will start to weave it through a little, and then I'll tie a knot. And then I'll finish weaving it through to hide it. So I'm going along the top, similar to the place where I put the elastic through, just because that will help to hide the elastic. And then I'm gonna go down this way. I think it's helpful to go in different directions because it helps the tail from being dislodged later. And then I'm going to pull it tight and then cut it. And then I'll repeat that with the rest of the ends as well. And once all the ends are weaved in, the headband is finished.